purpose of this show is trying to help people who may have become addicted to opioid pain medication like I did. I did become the proverbial functioning addict, and they made me feel great until they didn't anymore. If we can help even one person with the information that's shared on this podcast, then it's all worth it.
How I said I loved getting high. I got so involved in the program in 2008 when I first moved up here. After I moved into a women's transitional living house called the Regina House.
Yep.
And after about 9 or 10 months, I was asked to manage the house. So I used to come to the meetings and, you know, watch my girls, keep the boys away from the girls, you know, no men, no men, no men. And, you know.
Jodie the Enforcer. That's why they call you the warrior.
They used to call me Queen CB.
Yeah, there you go.
You know.
And it is a trend over the last several years in the recovery community to show those before and after pictures. For me, because I've shown mine on the show before, it's humbling as a motherfucker.
Absolutely.
I look at that picture and go, oh my God, who is that fucking guy?
Right.
I don't know who that person is. And with mine, which we're going to look at in a minute, there it is. And now, part 2 of our interview talking about relapse, because relapse happens with that rock star warrior, our friend Jodie Rae on the Dare Me podcast. Who is that fucking guy?
Right.
I don't know who that person is. And with mine, which we're going to look at in a minute, there it is. I say, oh my God, I was fucking possessed.
Yeah.
This is the morning after a blackout, Jodie. You know, I know what happened leading up to it, but I don't know what happened between the night before. And like you said earlier, I was a fucking trash can. In this picture, I was strung out on opiates, Adderall, Xanax, and drinking.
Wow.
And I mean, I know where I was and all the other stuff, but there's this probably 10-hour period that to this day, I have no idea what happened. And you know what? That scares the shit out of me. I mean, I'm saying it on this podcast. I could have fucking killed somebody in a fight. I don't even know. I have no fucking idea. And you know what? That wasn't even enough of a wake-up call for me. This was like on January 2nd or 3rd of that year, but I did end up getting clean a couple months later. So anyway, I hate looking at that picture, but I show it for the impact of it. So next, Dean, is my after pick. I got to show that because it's all about the comeback.
That's right.
But that's what a relapse looks like for Glenn.
There you go.
And then thank God for, you know, whatever reason and miraculously, Jodie, I was able to pull myself out of it. And as you know, I've become a fitness guy for the last 5 years. I'm always posting fucking reels of me working out at the gym. But, you know, that's all by design. I've used them as promo reels for the show. But the fact of the matter is, man, I like showing those 2 different pictures because it shows that we can fucking come back from a relapse, man. You know, thank God. You know, it's kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Help me out here. In the program, people sometimes, maybe it's just me and my thinking, but sometimes look down on people that relapse, shame, and all that other shit. And like I said, I used to hate hearing about relapse. Now I love hearing them comeback stories from relapse because it became part of my story. What's the next slide we have, Dean? I know we had a couple more in there that I wanted to chat about. And so this one, Jodie, I had to show you this.
14.
You can see that.
I can see
and
that.
This is at a pub, you know right where it is. It's called the Carryman in Longwood, where I used to live. And if you look closely in the middle, it's, can you read that? What does it say?
What, the 14 Jaeger bombs?
No, right in the middle up above next to check. You see what it says?
Does it say bomb guy?
Yeah, that's what the waitress wrote on the, she named me bomb guy. And so my buddy Mark, who you know,
Yes.
he saw this receipt laying on the counter after that, and he said, "Oh my God, Glenn, you're going to become known as Bomb Guy." I said, "I think I already have." But I saved this as a reminder to me. Going back to what you just talked about, Dean. Oh, I can control it now. This time I'll keep it straight. And
Right.
here I go to the fucking bar and I drank 14 fucking Jaeger bombs. Who the fuck drinks 14 fucking Jaeger bombs? That's when I was hooked on
We
that
do.
shit. And yeah, man, I remember it because that's when it was the Jaeger bomb
Absolutely,
craze
yeah.
and everybody, you know, and I remember thinking, this is like the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
It's like cracking a can and I don't even have to do the blow because, you know, you drink booze all night. Usually you go home at 2 a.m, you pass out and go to sleep. We'll get up
Right.
for work the next day. You're drinking 3-4 cans of fucking Red Bull. You ain't going to sleep when you get home,
That's
you know?
right.
And man, oh man, thank God we don't have to live like that
Absolutely,
anymore.
Absolutely.
So
And I have to say that, you know, like my before picture, you know, I had weight loss surgery. I had the gastric band done and something got twisted along the way inside. And when I went into treatment, I was 85 pounds.
well, you know what? I'm glad you brought this up because we were going to talk about this a little bit and
Yes.
you never really touched on it. So if you don't mind, expand on that part of the story a little bit.
Well,
for-
I wasn't taking care of myself because I was using, so I wasn't going to the doctor to find out what was going on.
But-
I couldn't keep any food down.
Well, if I may, and again, Jody, I don't mean to interrupt you,
no,
but
go ahead.
back up because you didn't actually tell us about when you first got the band and all. So I
Right.
know that contributed to some of your challenges. So if you're comfortable talking about it,
Absolutely.
tell us that part of the
After
story.
I had gotten clean, I mean, the first 2.5 years, I put on like 80 pounds. I was over 300 pounds. I mean, I was a big girl, you know.
I remember. I was there. Yeah.
Very big. And, you know, I had done my inside work and I wanted my outsides to look like my insides. I
Sure.
wanted to feel better about myself.
I get it.
I just couldn't lose weight. So we went for the healthiest way, what we thought. I wasn't reconfiguring my inside. So I went for a gastric lap band, which they don't do anymore. But it basically goes at the bottom of your esophagus, top of your stomach. They fill it with saline every couple weeks to make it tighter. So the opening from your esophagus to your stomach makes the food digest slower. So
Right.
you eat less because you feel fuller longer.
Yep.
And it worked well. In conjunction, I did go to work out with a personal trainer, you know, for the first 2 years. And, you know, I used it as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
But there became a point where when I got married to number 2, I had gone in for one last fill and they told me you can't get it filled anymore. And after that, I was not keeping food down. And it got progressively worse, where I was not keeping food, was not making it down into my stomach. It was just coming back up already chewed, and that was it. And it would feel like I had a wet washcloth stuck in the back of my throat. And, but I enjoyed being thin. But then I started losing.
I'm just going to be
drastic-
honest. I got to interject because I remember this journey and I remember us sitting around the room going, damn, Jody looking pretty good these days, ain't she? Just being honest, man.
Well, yeah, I got tiny and,
Yeah.
you know, and I was good, you know, and, you know, when I got married, I was like 122 pounds and I loved it. I went into the dress shop. I could try on anything. I could buy anything, you know, that kind of thing. And then when I started abusing my medication, you know, on top of not eating, you know, I wasn't able, the band had gotten worse and I don't know why. But I
Something went
wasn't,
wrong.
I wasn't addressing it.
Mm.
I wasn't addressing
Because when
my
you're
money had to go
using, we
somewhere
put,
else.
yeah, I get it.
I wasn't going to pay for a copay when I could get
Go
something
get dope.
to numb me out.
Yeah.
So, you know, I let my health go and, you know, my family started noticing that long before they started, you know, that's why I'm saying, you know, like when I told my family I was using, you know, it just knocked the air out of them because I had had all these psychological and emotional challenges,
yeah.
hurdles, whatever, bullshit. And they were worried about my health because of my eating. And when I went into treatment, they sent me right over to the hospital and loaded me up, and they undid the band. They released all the saline. They took it all out. So it's like the band doesn't work anymore.
Yep.
And it's like I never had it. And now all I have to do is walk by food and the weight goes on, because my body, the way a doctor in the hospital explained it, was that my body was in starvation mode for so long that it grabbed onto every calorie.
Starts to store it.
On a lot of weight in the first 6 months, and it destroyed me.
Yep.
I've been making efforts to do things, but, I could do more.
Yeah, well, I got to say, Jodie, as you may know, because I know you follow the show, there was an episode we did in the first season with my son G, who told me to say hi, by the way. He knew I was going to see you today. Jodie knows my son G. We did an episode called Get Fit with G and Me, or something like that. And what had happened with me, is I got what they call recovery belly. So when I got clean, man, sugar was my new drug. I was drinking 4 or 5 of them fucking Starbucks caramel macchiatos with the extra drizzle for shizzle my nizzle 3 to 5 times a day. And I'll never forget, I got up to 180. Which ain't a lot for some people, but I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'7", skinny, slim guy. I was like, I looked in the mirror one day and go, oh, fuck no.
Right.
Because as you know, you start getting older, man, it's harder to take them pounds off. And I ended up losing 50 pounds. Wow. Now, I've put, some pounds back on, and I'm kind of at a weight, I'd like to be a little bit lower. But the point I'm making is, that is very common when people start to get clean. Like you said, the body's like, oh, hell yeah, now I get to eat. This motherfucker's finally eating some food again. We want more. And then we put on the pounds, I
hadn't eaten bread in 11 years.
Wow. No kidding.
And bread is yummy.
Yeah. Especially with a little olive oil and Parmesan.
Croissants
well, you know what? I appreciate you sharing that part of your story, Jodie, because I think it's important. And it also is a great way for me to kind of transition into the next thing I want to talk about with you is, see, for those of us that have clean time, we do face those physical challenges in life where you got to decide, am I going to take this medication or can I get through without it? I can use Tylenol, ibuprofen, whatever the fuck. And that's what happened with me when I broke my ankle. And the point I wanted to make was, guess who was there the night I broke my ankle? Yeah, there she is.
When 40-year-olds go roller skating.
Well, you know what, Jodie? When I first met you and kind of got to know you, somehow that topic came up. You had some pictures of you in some fucking badass bling-bling roller skates when you were younger or whatever.
Oh, sure.
And I was a rink rat when I was younger. I mean, I even played hockey, but we used to go to this roller skating rink in the Metro Detroit area, Skateland, and others too, for a couple of years, or a few years. And I remember when I first learned you were a skater, like, oh man, I could see me and Jodie, we would have hung out together back in them days.
Bouncing to the music.
And so here I am with, God, what did I have? About 6 years clean again. This is during the time when I met you that I came back from my first relapse. So somebody came up with the bright fucking idea to have a roller skate at an NA roller skating party over at Cimarron Skateway in the Orlando area. And, they're like, oh, come on, Glenn, it'll be fun, man. We'll have a good time. And I thought, well, I used to skate. It had been 20 years, but fuck, man, it'll all come back to me. And it did. And, we had a great night party. I was skating backwards, doing the dance, disco, all the things. All I had to fucking do was step off of that rink at the end of the night, and you go from that smooth, slick, fast surface to carpeting. I lost my balance at the end of the night. And when I came down, your legs and arms are flapping everywhere. I knew exactly what happened. I heard it. And I was in surgery the next morning when they put them 3 pins in my ankle, and that was the start of my relapse because they prescribed opioid pain medication.
Absolutely.
And I thought, well, fuck, I am in pain. It is prescribed, and I should have known better. But see, that's a little bit of a difference in our story. You mentioned it when we were talking off the air. I never fucked with opioids.
Right.
I was a cokehead back in the days when I first got clean, a drinker, pot smoker in the 80s and all that. And then my first relapse was all the Jaeger bombs we were talking about, smoked a little weed. But I had no idea what the whole opioid thing was all about. I remember talking to a buddy of ours, this guy Eric, at the meeting who would share openly about that was his DOC, his drug of choice. And I remember saying, I don't know, man, I just don't get it with you guys and these fucking pills, man. You know, I'll need to try some real drugs. No, I'm just joking. You know, but then when it happened to me, I was like, oh my God. And that moment you described, because I was taking them as prescribed, and then a little more, a little bit more for Santa Claus, a little bit more for Santa Claus. Yes. And that one day, that moment when I woke up and I go, oh my God, I'm fucking hooked on this shit. I got to get off of this shit. And man, that's when, like you said, the whole circus started. But yeah, so Jodie, y'all have heard me tell my story so many times on this podcast. She is living proof that it happened because she was there. And I wasn't the only one that got hurt that night, was I? What happened again? You told me. I can't remember.
Somebody else broke their wrist.
Yeah, that was with our crew. Yeah, because there were about a dozen of us that went.
But I wanted to say, you know, when I had the weight loss surgery, it took NSAIDs off the table. So I couldn't take, you know, I had bad fibromyalgia and bad nerve damage, you know, pain and all that. So I used to take Aleve and Advil, and I couldn't take any of that anymore. Yeah. So Tylenol wasn't cutting it when I hurt myself. And I couldn't take any of the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, you know, I couldn't take any of it because the way it breaks up, it can cause internal bleeding. So it was like an absolute no. So that was another reason why getting onto the Percocets were so, you know, I mean, I was in pain and I had no other, you know, option because I couldn't take anything over the counter except for Tylenol. So
let me ask you this, Jodie, and we try not to tell too many war stories on this show, although your old pal Glenn, you know how my crazy mind thinks. I thought that we might do an episode one time called War Stories, because see, even at some meetings, people don't like it when you tell war stories. It seems like you're glorifying it or trigger somebody or whatever the fuck. Personally, I like hearing them war stories because it reminds me I don't want to go back to fucking living like that. And there's an old saying, as you know, Jodie, around the rooms, it's the greatest show on earth. Hang on for the ride of your life. And what we kind of mean by that is people will share things in meetings sometimes that just blows your fucking mind. Some of the things that we put ourselves through, because it ain't always, as you know, just the using. The lifestyle comes with that, and some of the stories are fucking insane. So we might have to have you back on that show, because I know you got some stories we ain't heard yet. But for the sake of time, you know, we're kind of So anyways, Jodie, man, thank you so much for sharing your story and you know, inspiring us, you know, myself included, you know, that we can come back from a relapse. And it does happen, y'all. It does happen.
And it's so important to plug back in. I knew what to do. That's the thing. I came home and I knew what to do. I knew what I had to do. I had some wreckage I needed to clear up and some shame. And, you know, thank God for my sponsee and my best friend who really talked my mother through this while I was away. You know, they were ready to write me off. You know, my sisters have been coming along slowly.
I knew it. It was just a matter of time. I get it.
Or if I'm having an off day, are you using? You know, and that it hurts my heart, but you know, I caused it. I have to take responsibility for the wreckage and the distrust that I caused. And I have to give them the time. If they're going to give me the, you know, because I could be angry. I would catch myself being angry. Fucking man, I just got back from rehab. Why aren't they trusting me? I was just clean for 14 and a half years. I'm back now. I got 30 days. I know what I'm doing. Yep. Well, they're still holding their breath.
Yeah.
And so it is up to me, if I want my family to be in my life, is to continue, not be like, hey, look at me. Hey, look at me. Although, in the meetings, one of my favorite things to say is we're the only group of people that want a parade for running out of a burning building.
Yeah.
Or medallions. I didn't use today. Woohoo. And then the regular people are like, you're not supposed to use every day.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I had a friend a long time ago around the rooms who told me that when he got his year, he went to tell his mom, I got a year clean. And you know what she said? Shouldn't have been fucking with that shit any damn way. Instead of like, congratulations.
Right,
so, we call them, as you know, the normies, because sometimes people who aren't addicts or alcoholic or whatever the fuck you want to call it, they don't understand and they just don't get it. And I have compassion for that, understanding. But all the more reason, Jodie, I love having you on because, I've said it before on here, doing this fucking podcast, it's part of my healing process. It's part of me as we're taught. Carrying the message, giving it away to keep it because I so desperately want to stay. Now I'm trying not to get filled up. I just don't want to live like that anymore.
I don't.
And so thank you. Damn it. I was trying to get through this one without getting emotional too. But thank you for being here. Now, we got to end the show on a fun note, though. We can't be all sad. So, Dean, I had a few, I call them memes, but I see all these things people post online. And I think that's what's next after that receipt photo that we talked about. Yeah, so here's a few funny ones. Yep. So once I got off the Jaeger bombs and I came back, I thought trying to get off these opiates sucks so bad. Maybe if I take a few drinks, it'll take the edge off. I'll get through the withdrawals and I'll put the bottle down. I've said on here before, I don't recommend that, especially if you had a problem with booze before, because I tried it and then I got hooked on the booze again and I started drinking JMO. I stayed away from the Jaeger bombs, but that picture you saw of me, this is the shit I was drinking that night. So I had to show that. Go piss in that closet and then fight someone.
Before I went to treatment this last time, one of the people that I told had also had a long period of time and relapsed. And I said to him, I know I'm going to treatment at the end of the week. I'm going to go to the liquor store. And he said, Jodie, don't.
Yeah.
He's like, every time I've come back, and he was an opiate guy like me, and he said, I couldn't get that taste of alcohol out of my mouth. And I am so grateful to him for saying that to me. And I am so grateful that I had the wherewithal not to do it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have that obsession.
Yes.
I really wanted to get clean. I wanted to get past it. I did not want to be where I was.
Yeah,
I had no fun. I was not partying with anyone this time. I was not going out. I was
because you're shame. You're feeling shame. Yeah.
I didn't want to go to the meetings. People were saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry, your husband died of cancer," and I'd have to explain, "No, he didn't." Just the whole thing. So I am so grateful to be back.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for my family for giving me the grace. My friends.
Yes.
My best friend.
Yeah.
He was back in my life. I stopped talking to him when I was with my husband.
Yeah, that's what happens. We slowly but surely start to drift away. So I get it.
And I destroyed his trust too. And, and he's been giving me grace.
But you're 2.5 years clean again. Well, so you are.
In a couple of weeks.
Well, okay. Over 2 years. Yeah, I'm sorry. Over, 2.5. Yes. I say, yep. And proving yourself again. So there you go. Well, Dean, what's the next one we got on there? Because like I said, we want to have a little fun with this. So when you're a relapser, you will notice this shit a mile away. Yep. And for those who are listening and not actually watching, the slide says, you get 2 free sniffles around me before I assume you've been snorting coke.
Absolutely.
Anybody that knows will spot it a mile away. But when you've been a relapser, man, believe me, you can see them across the jaw jacket, all that. So what's the next one we got, Dean? There's a couple more, I think, here. So, yeah, man, I just,
for
again,
sure.
trying to have a sense of humor about it, y'all. Yeah, we get it. Relapse is no fucking joke. It's serious business. And you know as well as I do, Jody, there's that little click around the rooms that relapse is not a requirement of recovery. Well, you know what? Nobody ever fucking said that.
Right.
They're taking it out of context to
Right.
make themselves sound good. Yeah, it's not a requirement, but guess what? It damn sure is a part of recovery. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at the research, more people that come through the 12 steps rooms, pick your fucking program, it doesn't matter, relapse than don't. It's not real common for people to stay clean 10, 20, 30, 40 years when you compare it to the number of people that come in the rooms. So it's more common than people think. Yeah, it's not a requirement. I've never heard anybody fucking say that, unless somebody's spouting their mouth off. But it is a part of recovery. And thank God we survived it, because not everybody does. There is life after a relapse. And you know what? That's part of the reason I wanted to put this slide up there. We get it that it's serious, but we're trying to have a sense of humor about it, because we have fun in recovery, man.
So much fun.
And I still have that inner child in there, and he does show his ugly head all the time, I got to keep that motherfucker in check, and
I have a naked 12-year-old boy running around in my head.
Yep. So for those who lost trust in me because of my relapse, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That fucking inner child reared his ugly head again. But anyway, so go on to the next one. This one I thought we'd talk about. So you mentioned the steps earlier, Jody, and I didn't interrupt you at that point, although I have, of course, several times, because a lot of people who come across our show for the first time aren't familiar with 12-step rooms or programs of recovery. And so, I think most people, once they grow into even a teenage or young adult life, have heard of AA or NA or the 12 steps. Yeah, especially now with social media, the internet and everything. So in the 12 steps, without doing a walk through all the steps, the 9th step is all about you try to go back and clean up some of the wreckage of your past. You made a list of people you owe amends to, and then if you're not harming them or others in the process, you go out and try to do it. Right. So this photo, for those that know, is funny as hell. This guy just thought, I bet his sponsor probably made him do that. Like, okay, we're going to make this easy on you, bro. Make a fucking sign and go sit out there.
That's right.
Now, I wanted to bring this photo up in part, Jody, because as a matter of fact, you kind of, blew my mind. Here we are walking, to the studio behind the scenes when I came out to get you, and you showed a picture of this.
My mother
Can you see that, Dean?
To me.
So tell us that story.
I was trying to tell my family that I was going to be on this podcast, and I said, go ahead and look it up on YouTube. Now, nobody else in my family is an addict. They've only come for me. And I said, if you want to see what it's like, you can go and watch a previous. And they've been to enough medallions where they know people, and they know Eric from they've seen him around. And, they've been to a lot. So when I was getting ready to come here, my mom texted, what is it? S2M2.
S2M2.
And
we'll tell you what that stands for in a second, folks.
And I knew that she was telling me that
she had watched
a previous episode that I was not on. And my parents have done what they can to, understand this to the best of their knowledge. My father, why can't you quit? Why aren't we enough? Why isn't this,
Well, God, I sure hope maybe him watching or listening to the podcast might help in that area for him to understand.
He's learned more over the years. And now he'll be like, keep coming back. And it's so cute.
Yeah, of course. So your mom sent you that picture because I talked about that on that podcast. Yes. So we should explain. The S2M2 that I have tattooed on the palm of my hand, I got a few tattoos. That was definitely the most painful one. I did it to provide myself with a constant reminder of something we're taught in the program. When we make a list of people that we owe an amends to, that we believe we do because of our behavior during our using, that we should always put ourself at the top of the list.
Absolutely.
And that might sound selfish or cocky to what we call normies or people who aren't familiar with the program. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't forgive ourselves first, then we're doomed, man,
Absolutely.
you know. And, you know, there's that old saying, not to sound cheesy and cliche, you know, like that old Whitney Houston song, you know, the greatest love of all, man, is learning to love yourself without being an asshole or cocky, you know. And I laugh at myself.
Absolutely.
I talk to myself in the car. Oh, I'm the only one, right? You know, I got a good sense of humor. I got a good heart. I'm a good person, but I've made some bad choices, especially during my using years. And so anyway, to explain the tattoo, there's this singer out there that I just love to death. She's a young girl in her 20s. Julia Michaels, famous songwriter. She's written for, you know, Justin Bieber, Gwen Stefani, different people. But she's also this amazingly talented artist in her own right. Her most famous song was probably I Got Issues. I got issues. You got them too. Yeah. Anyway, so she did a song, I don't know, maybe a year or so after I got clean this time, called Sorry to Me Too. Now, the context of the song is she's kind of, you know, talking about a relationship. But when somebody puts a song out there in the world, they'll often say, it's yours now, you know. And we always try to apply lyrics to songs to our own life and situation or whatever. And I thought to myself, man, what a great way for me to remind myself, because I have to look at it every day.
Look, I do that all the time.
And so I do. I try to forgive myself for some of the mistakes I made.
Yeah,
bad
my
choices.
Wrist says I am my own worst enemy.
Yeah, I didn't know it was. So you know what I'm talking about.
You know, the first time, because I can rip myself down faster than anybody else. Nobody thinks that I'm as important. You know, that they're not paying attention to me.
I get it.
You know, it was, you know, based on walking into the rooms and thinking like that fear of going into your first meeting alone and thinking everyone's staring at you, but then you have such low self-esteem. It's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
I'm not that important that everybody.
You know what? I use the same mentality in the gym sometimes, especially when I first started going, because I was so out of shape. And I remember thinking, oh, God, all these motherfuckers are going to be looking at me. Ain't nobody looking at me. They were probably like, good for that old dude. He's out here working out. You know what I mean?
And taking pictures of himself.
Yeah, you know, or as I told a relative of mine recently, what somebody told me a long time ago, Glenn, it ain't all about you. But we like to think so sometimes.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so yeah, forever grateful to one of our favorite singers, Julia Michaels, for putting out that song, Sorry to Me Too, because it inspired me to get that tattoo that I can't help but look at all day, every day to remind myself, yeah, I made some bad choices in my life before. Nobody's perfect. Sometimes you got to give yourself a break, and next, you know, hopefully learn from the mistakes that we make. So
but we've gotten through 100% of our shit days.
Yeah.
Which is why I call us warriors.
Yeah.
And why I have the warrior tattoo.
Oh, yeah, I meant to say, here, I'm talking about my tattoo. Jodie has the warrior tattoo on her arm as a constant reminder.
A constant reminder that I've gotten through 100% of my shit days, of my shit relationships. I've survived domestic violence. I've survived, you know, emotional warfare. I've survived countless rehabs when I shouldn't. My dad's business partner had a daughter who also passed away. Yeah, and she was like family to us. She passed away of a drug overdose. She was clean for many years, you know. So my family has seen what this does. And when I went to rehab, you know, my mother was like, you're not going to die. But she didn't say it she said it from a place of fear.
Yeah.
And to hear that fear and that I was causing that was heartbreaking. So I am glad that I am able to, or that I have chosen, because it's a choice.
Yeah, it is a choice.
It's a choice. Maybe not a conscious choice every day, but it's a choice every day not to get high.
Yes. Well, you know what, Jodie? I love the way you kept describing it. maybe without even really realizing it. We're not fucking victims. We are survivors, man. You kept saying that. We survived. So, yeah, man, I'm so grateful we did. And thank you again for being on the show today. Dean, what's our next? I think we had another one coming up there on the slideshow, didn't we? Yeah, that was a good one. I was glad I made you laugh. So, yeah, the comeback from the relapse. I love this. You've probably seen this online before. The most gangster shit I ever did was turn my whole life around because, if people come into rooms, everybody wants to talk about how gangster they were. Yeah, you was isolating in your bedroom doing dope. Yeah. Yep. And then wouldn't even go around nobody. He was gangster. No, but that's true, man. It's my proudest accomplishment next to, my kids and grandkids, things like
outside
that.
Of
out of all the things I've done in my life, it's definitely a gangster move. And then I think we had one more, Jodie, before just having some fun. Yeah. So anybody who may come across this podcast, watching, listening, and you're like I was, strung out on dope, looking for information at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning online, how to kick opiates, how to get through opiate withdrawals. Those are the main people we try to get through to this with this podcast. So if that might be you, this slide right here I thought was a great one to kind of wrap this whole conversation up with. One day or day one, you decide. And Jodie and I are living proof that this can be your day one. There's an old saying, the hardest part of a journey is not the last part where you're coming in for the home stretch. It's the first step of that journey. And I hope we talked about some things that might inspire someone to get clean, whether it's for the first time or coming back from a relapse. There's a lot of resources out there, and we hope that maybe we might be just one of them. So thank you again, Jodie, for being on the show.
Pleasure.
We're going to talk about the opioid crisis in the news. We try to do that every show, just a couple of stories. Keep our fingers on the pulse of what's going out there, new drugs hitting the street, hopefully make some people aware. We talk a little bit sometimes about how this opioid settlement money is being used to help people. So if you want, Jodie, you stick around and maybe, give us your perspective on just a couple of stories we wanted to talk about. And now it's time to talk about the opioid crisis in the news. We try to do that every show for at least a couple of stories. We keep our eyes on what's going on in the news when it comes to the opioid crisis and other drugs out there that, we think people need to be aware of. So, Jodie, thank you for joining us for this segment of the show to give your perspective on some of the stories that we're going to be talking about. So let's bring up the first one and we'll talk about this. We keep hearing that the opioid crisis is getting better and better, and they say the numbers have come down, which is encouraging. It's great. I'll also say, as I've shared on this show, if you do the math and follow the numbers from the CDC, instead of 9 people dying every hour in the United States from an opioid overdose, like it was a couple of years ago, now 6 people an hour die.
Still too many.
Yeah, it's great it went down by 3, but that's fucking horrible. Yes. So we got to keep talking about it, man. And so this story right here, I think, is an example of how, it may be getting better, but there's still fucking problems out there. Absolutely. This is a story from just last week out of the Providence Journal. And, we follow all the different news outlets. We ain't biased to nobody. Overdoses spiked July 4th, just, like a month ago here, and they issued another statewide alert. And the next slide has a little more information on this story. That was kind of just the headline. The Rhode Island Department of Health issued an overdose spike alert for the entire state. 65 people had a non-fatal
Thank
overdose
God.
from June 30th to July 6th in 7 days, man. And so the overdoses peaked on the 4th, but you and I both know what happened here. This was a fucking hot batch. Some asshole mixed up
Absolutely.
in his kitchen sink that was laced with fentanyl. And all these fucking people.
I carry Narcan with me.
Yeah, you told
I
me.
drive
that. Yeah.
Uber.
Oh, I keep it in my glove box, and yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we've got some in the studio here.
yeah,
We
I
keep
know
some here in
Dean's
the
a
studio.
big advocate for Narcan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, what's our next story there, Dean? I know we had another one we wanted to talk about here as well. And this is a great example, I think, Jodie, of how this is a challenge and a problem, not just around the United States, but literally around the fucking world. And this is out of Canada. The CBC had this story. Health unit issues alert over high number of opioid overdoses, and it was the same time period as what we just saw in Rhode Island,
Wow.
June 28th to July 4th. And I think we had a little more on that story in the next slide, too, that just talks about it a little bit. You know, I don't like reading anybody on here, but I think, you know, just by bringing it up, it tells a little more about it. The Windsor, Ontario in Canada, Essex County Health Unit's opioid and substance abuse, unit or whatever the fuck, talked about this spike. And during the period, 29 opioid overdoses and 19 involved fentanyl. From June 28th to July 4th. What is that, 6 days?
Yeah, that's
The
disgusting.
fuck? So, yeah, man, we're making progress. It's coming down,
It's
but
coming down, but it's not coming
it ain't
down
gone
enough.
away. This is so crazy. And then let's go to the next one, Dean. I think we had one more we wanted to talk about.
I don't believe we do.
Oh, I thought we had the one about the fentanyl strip, the NBC story.
All right, talk amongst yourselves. Let me see if I can find it
Okay,
real
well,
quick.
Dean's going to look for that one, but I'll tell you what it was about, Jodie. It was a short little story, but there are drug dealers now that are posting videos out on social medias and what have you that they show themselves testing their drugs with a fentanyl strip to show, hey, man, my shit is the real deal.
Right.
This ain't got fentanyl in it. Now, there's also fentanyl strips out there for the addict
Right.
to test the dope they're getting ready to use to see if it has fentanyl in it. Now, there's mixed school of thought on that. You got your very, very, very conservatives who say we shouldn't be giving them fucking drug addicts nothing. They need to get clean, and giving them fentanyl strips and a clean place to use and all that,
Right.
And then you got others saying, well, wait a minute, what we've been doing all these decades ain't fucking working. Give them clean needles
Right.
and a place to use and fentanyl strips, and in the process, we can try to give them information and encourage them to get clean and all that shit. So again, I have an opinion.
Right.
I'm trying not to give it right now, but I'm curious, what's your perspective on that story?
I think, people who have not been impacted by it don't understand. I think families want their children alive.
Yeah.
And if that means getting them a clean needle before they can get them to rehab, I know parents, not mine, but I know parents who have gotten their children something to use to get them until they could get to rehab because they were so afraid that their kid was going to go back out on the streets and get something and die.
Yep.
So I think, it's a slippery slope. I don't
That's a
think
good
there
way to
should
put
be a safe place to use, but I think everyone, I don't know how that's going to work. If you're buying something off the side of the road, what do you say? Wait 1 minute, let me test this.
Yeah, right.
How realistic? But when you get it back to your place, then that's a different story. They started giving out free needles to stop the AIDS epidemic.
Yes.
A million years ago.
Yep.
You know,
In
they
some
started
locations,
methadone
not
to stop
all.
the needles.
Yep.
And then they created another problem. So is this going to create another problem? I don't know. I can't see in the future, but what history shows me is one thing's going to create another is going to create another. There's always going to be somebody out there who is looking to get high.
Yeah. Yep.
You
Well, you know what?
And they're going to find a way.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? We've done a whole show on this topic, and probably we'll talk about it again. But even you've talked about methadone and Suboxone, and there's different schools of thought on those particular drugs. It's referred to as MAT, medication assisted treatment. There's, as you and I both know, some people who are dead set against it, and there's other people that swear by it and say it saved their life.
Right.
That was the next step for me.
Right.
I know this is controversial as hell, but I use Kratom, and I have an opinion on Kratom that I've put out there. It's all over social media, blah, blah, blah. You don't want to I'm all for taking that shit out of the gas stations and all that bullshit.
I was in treatment with a guy coming off of it.
I think it needs to be controlled, but I also believe it can be a tool, just as the methadone, the Suboxone, the clean needles, the safe place to use, the fentanyl strips. They're tools that I think
should have an end date.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
As long as the ultimate goal is.
What is your intention?
Right.
Yes. And of course, you want it to be to ultimately get clean and be drug free. And that's what you and I are doing.
That's
right. So I'm so happy you're here. Well, that wraps it up on the news stories. Like I said, we don't go into we're not trying to do a news show and a half-hour newscast or anything, but it's something we pay close attention to, and I always like to talk about it a little bit on the show because certainly it generates some interesting conversation and hopefully makes our listeners and viewers think about it a little bit too. Because at the end of the day, Jodie, I really believe, and that's the whole idea with this podcast, that the way we're going to, bring this opioid epidemic around, I don't think it's ever going to go away. Opiates been around. I think about the heroin epidemic in the 60s and 70s. I never got caught up in all that, but we all hear the story. So again, I don't think it's ever going to go away. I do think there's a hell of a lot of room for improvement. And the way we do that, I think, again, is talking about it. That's where it all starts.
There's a lot more education out there.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot more people being affected by it. You don't have to be poor or on the streets.
No boundaries.
I've seen people at the highest level of their life.
As we often say, park place and park bench. And I know you and I have partied at both.
Yep.
And been to both.
Absolutely.
So, but thank you again for being on the show today, Jodie. I loved our conversation. And, for anybody that might like to follow Jodie on social media, if you're okay with it, Jodie, we'll post your links in the description for the show on YouTube. And with all that said, thank you again, Jodie, for being on the show. Dean, anything you want to add before we wrap it up, my brother?
Oh, I agree. It's been an amazing story.
Yeah.
I'm a visual person, and wow, you just kind of just rang right through me. It was great. I sorry for that slide that didn't come up, but
no, it's okay.
There's some other things.
That was probably me, user error.
I just went on just Google, and I Googled up fentanyl test strips, and a whole mess of other stuff came up.
It's controversial, but at the end of the day, though, it can save a life, man. That's the way I kind of look at it. Sucks that it's out there, but it is. There's no denying.
But if it can save a life,
absolutely.
Why the hell we have Narcan if it can't save a life? Well, then you're just promoting blah blah blah.
Yeah.
No, it's about saving a life. Let's call it what it is.
And at the end of the day, that's what this show is all about. And we hope that we might have helped, as we often say, even one person to maybe keep them clean and, as you just said, Dean, alive even one day longer. If that happens as a result of anything we've ever done, are doing now, or will ever do on this show, then it was all worth it. So, Dean, Jodie, thanks again to all our viewers and listeners. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you would, please go to that YouTube channel, hit subscribe, like, share, all the things. Hey, we got to get that shameless plug in for ourselves a little bit. And And again, thanks for watching and listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time on the Dare Me podcast. So long, everyone.
Bye, everyone.